This week on the In Phase podcast, Tony and I sit down with a great friend of ours, Chris Court, to talk about his life challenges and how he's overcome them to live a life in phase.
Dan, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing? You've been kind of busy this past week.
Yeah, I've been ootin' a boot, as they say.
Boot.
Ootin' a boot.
Here in northern Kentucky and Cincinnati, we've had some pretty historic snow. Haven't had this much snow in probably 10 years. And
Yeah, does anybody know the stats? I mean, has it been 10 years? It feels like it's been 10 years.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's what the.
What did we get? It was like 14 inches or something.
Yeah, yeah. Altogether, we got about 14 inches of snow
in like a week,
right? Which is crazy.
Yeah.
But we're not. I mean, Texas got like 4 inches of snow, and they're like decimated. They don't have this.
That's Armageddon levels of snow.
Right. And we have
Texas.
We have salt truck drivers. That's what we call a salt truck. Salt truck. You just called it salt truck.
Right.
One word. Salt truck.
Salt truck.
We got salt truck drivers out, like with COVID and not being able to be there, and so I think I heard that we have about in the tri-state area, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, we have like something like 50 to 60% of the actual manpower to deal with the snow. So it's been an interesting week. But for you, while we're trying to dig ourselves out, where have you been? What have you been doing?
Well, I was down in southern Florida with most of my family. My son couldn't make the trip, but we were able to hook up with my daughter in Savannah and then drive on down and visit with some friends. They just bought a house. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So we ate fried grouper and shrimp every day, played golf one day. They got 5 golf courses in their little community. It's just a cherry little spot. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're swinging a golf club and I'm swinging a snow shovel.
Right. I'm sorry, Dan.
That's
apologize.
okay. It's fair. It's fair because it's all relative. That's why it's fair.
Right.
I'm really glad you got to spend time with your daughter. That's cool. She's in school.
Speaking of relatives.
Yeah. Speaking of relatives, I got a few of them. Yeah, she's in school, and like I'm not in that stage yet. With my kids, they're younger, but I can't imagine when that time comes. I'm going to be doing everything I can. You can go to school wherever, but I'm going to be doing everything I can to rope them into time and stuff. So I'm really glad that you and your wife got to spend time with her down there.
Yeah, and and it's something that we talked about. So we're always trying to figure out something fun and cool to do that our kids would be interested in. So she wanted to go on this quail hunt thing that we were trying to do.
Oh, wow.
Which she went with us last year, and she's like, oh my gosh. And there were going to be horses this year, so we were going to do a horseback hunt, which was going to be really cool.
She's crazy about horses.
Yeah, she actually loves horses. She grew up with them, so she loves freaking horses, and she's great around them. Yeah. So yeah. So TP, God rest your soul. Yeah, that's right. So we went down there, had a great time with our daughter. Was able to get back home safely, and then I shoveled snow for about 5 hours last night. Some son who helped me out, and now like my arthritis is killing me, and my hips are killing me, and
well,
right. And it's not because of the way my wife's been treating me. It's hard labor.
It's hard labor. And,
that's right.
When you play hard and you're 1,000 years old, it hurts when you're done with it.
1,000 years old.
Yeah. So speaking of side hustle, speaking of quail hunting, bird hunting, and playing hard.
Yes.
Our guest this week does all of those things.
Yes.
I would say moderately to pretty well. So we'd love to welcome our good friend Chris Courts to the In Phase podcast. How are we doing, Chris?
Hey, can I come in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Gotcha.
He's also a comedian.
Hey. You want me to sit here?
Yeah, you can sit there.
What? Whoa, don't sit there.
Yeah.
Hey, can you come in on a helicopter?
You guys record? Yeah, we're recording a podcast? All right, I'm in.
I'm in.
Thanks for the intro.
Hey, Action News here. My name is...
I was thinking more like Vietnam sounds.
Get down. Yeah. I feel like dropping acid to a Jimi Hendrix soundtrack.
I did that on the way in.
There got to be some kind of Okay, so well, welcome, Chris. Thanks for the entrance.
Oh, what? Yeah, thank you. I'm surprised to see you guys wearing shirts. I was told this was shirt optional.
Shirt optional.
Later.
Chris is wearing a denim vest with his name embroidered on it.
That way,
that's it.
That way, yeah, people know.
Let the tea do its magic,
I am.
Chris, and then we'll get our shirts off later.
Let the tea do its magic.
It's like if I fall asleep at the bar, people know it's me. They just drag me out.
Yeah, just drag me out.
That's what I say, but that's never come close to happening.
No, not at all.
Oh, I love it.
That's hilarious.
So I think one of the things, Dan, that as part of the podcast, right, is that we're always trying to find ways to help our fellow man,
right,
person, being, etc. However you're identifying. I think one of the interesting things I know personally for me was the fact that Chris has led what I would call a challenging life that to me is adventurous in the fact that he has been working through this journey with him and his family. Oh, by the way, so he's got people on board for the journey.
Legally.
And he seems...
You've signed the dotted line on that.
He seems pretty damn happy.
He does. That's the thing about Chris is I don't think I've ever known Chris to be, or have known people that have known Chris to be not happy.
Right.
Not content. So Chris
and probably has some reasons to be unhappy.
Yeah.
But kind of chooses.
I mean, he's
maybe.
friends with me for starters.
Yeah, right.
I stubbed my toe the other day, and
I mean,
I'll tell you that I got a little besmirched.
I got a little verklempt.
I was a little almost said the D word.
Almost said the D word. Dang it.
Darn.
Darn.
Wow.
Well, Chris, I know that your life hasn't always been sunshines and rainbows, and
right.
Thank God.
Right. Or lollipops.
That's true, I guess. I don't know. I feel like I've always been told I've been pretty easygoing. So I'm sure there's some sort of not natural, but maybe some sort of gift in that way of just like, maybe, I don't know. I know people carry different demeanors, but I've always been told I've been pretty laid back, which probably helps in some way.
So how does a guy who comes from a split household, growing up with some of the challenges? So we as every good podcast host would do, we've had a previous conversation with Chris. So Chris didn't just walk off even with those sound effects, like it did sound like he literally just walked off the street.
Walking by.
He just hopped out of his helicopter and walked on in.
No, but a podcast in there.
Like, Dan, who are we going to have on the podcast this week? Hey, there's somebody.
There's a guy out by the pawn shop.
He's been doing laps. Look, they're closed, buddy. Oh, it's Chris Quartz.
It's Christopher P. Quartz.
Hey, mister, have you ever been to Heartseed Studios?
Oh, my gosh, yes. So there it is.
Trying to buy a lawnmower and sell my weed eater, because then I'm going to come back, sell the lawnmower, and buy the weed eater, and then I got the whole yard done.
Oh, my.
And then you start over in a week.
You could make millions.
I'm coming back in a week.
Yeah, so we definitely have had a lot of. I'm coming back in a week. We definitely have had conversations with Chris, like, hey man, first of all, we think you've got some great value to this earth, and me as a friend can't imagine my life or this planet for that matter without Chris.
Stop it!
And so and he's so humble about it.
I appreciate it.
Come the waterworks.
I feel flattered. You guys think my life is interesting enough to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, it is. And how does somebody who you've had some challenges, and we can kind of go through those challenges, and basically, I'm trying to get at how somebody who has dealt with the kind of somebody that deals with a face like
just
that.
Just call it. Just say it.
Just somebody that's dealt with the challenges.
He's actually very handsome.
You can't have the body and the face too.
Right, you got to choose.
He's handsome,
but seriously, somebody who's kind of
sure
had to deal with a lot. But you just take every day in stride, and you're always ready for the day. You always have joy. I mean, that doesn't mean you're always happy. That doesn't mean everything's always going correctly. But you always seem to have this centered joy about you. So, I guess we just want to get to know you a little bit more and let our listeners get to know you a little bit more and kind of hear your story. and then we'll kind of dissect that a little bit and see what are some ways that we could probably bring that joy and success to some of the people listening.
We're in Cincinnati. I grew up about an hour out east, kind of a smaller town called Bethel, Ohio.
Yeah.
Shout out to my tater tots, Bethel Tate Tigers.
Bethel Tate Tigers, a little brown
Class
county.
of 2006. If you don't like it, you can
write your congressman.
You can write your congressman.
He almost said suck it, but he didn't.
But he didn't.
Make a cheeseburger. Yeah, so pretty small town. We used to say it's like a small enough town where if you farted, everybody smelled it, right? It was just like that thing,
Yeah.
And I didn't really think, I didn't know much of anything else, so I didn't really care. I didn't have a whole lot of ambition. I think I was an only child biologically between my parents. They got divorced when I was, I think 12, around that age.
How was that? That's a weird time. So for me, my parents got divorced when I was like, gosh, I was in diapers, and that was a kind of a process. And I do have a very early memory when I was like 2 or 3 of the whole process. But for me, it's just always been my parents are separated. So how do you go from 12-year-old boy? Like I remember figuring out things at 12, figuring out a lot of things at 12, and to throw in the mix, my mom and my dad are separated. Like, tell me about that.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there was so much going on. Maybe there. I'm an emotional guy already, so it doesn't take much. But I don't know. It was being an only child. It was a pretty close knit like relationship between the 3 of us. There wasn't any other not distractions, but there wasn't any other taxable dependents running around.
Right. Right.
And so I think more than anything, it was just more like a close friendship that felt like it was all kind of going their own way, right? But so I didn't dwell on it too much then, but it definitely festers up in life now, So like I said, if anything, it just felt like some relationships were just looking different, and it was challenging, the weekend stuff and all that. But
and this may be a little too deep, but I remember my first breakup ever. How devastating that was. Like, did you feel broken up with? Was it, you know what I mean? Like,
probably the first couple of years were definitely bizarre because even though I was born in Cincinnati, born in that town of Bethel, we moved when I was 4 down to like southeastern Kentucky. It's not that interesting of a story, but for my dad's work. So when they initially got divorced, I was like, we were splitting time. Like my mom was still living in Kentucky. My dad was living up here. So there was like a moment each week where it was like the handoff, right? Where we meet in a sketchy,
I know the handoff. Yeah.
So, but I mean, like I said, I think if anything, it just the friendship level of it was just kind of like weird, but also looking back on it, like, I think there was things that affected, but they just didn't like I said, it didn't pop up until I became an adult.
Right. Yeah.
Married, and was dealing with real life problems, right?
Sure.
Then you're like, oh, I guess I can
that kind
understand
of
it,
affected me
right?
a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So moving back to, Cincinnati, my dad moved back to his hometown, Bethel. That's also where my mom's from. So like, I had never lived there as a kid, but like knew the stories of like, my dad's got a couple brothers, a sister, my mom's got a brother, and being a small town, my grandpa was the mayor for years and years and years. And then like my grandpa was the deacon at the church. So I was just like, I just had never lived there. So I was kind of excited to be like, yeah, let's go move back to Bethel. I'm going to go to school there. And that's what I did. So my dad got married pretty quickly again, to my stepmom, and she had 2 daughters of her own already. So it was like, boom, new dynamic, something I wasn't used to,
So what, if you don't mind me asking, do you recall what it felt like, going through that divorce? I mean, did you feel like you were, I mean, was there any blame in your psyche, or were you struggling with anything? And then were there other people in your life that were going through the same thing, or were divorced as well? And
not that I could remember. No, nobody I was relating to in the time. I think the hardest thing, if anything, there came a moment where it was like, who were you living with, mom or dad?
Yeah, this is real. Weird. And it's not like that moment for me, and I was so young, and I still remember this. It was real, and it was things are going to be different.
Yeah.
Like this solidifies things are going to be different. Like
at first I said, I'm going to live with my mom. I was going to school in Kentucky, and then so that was for like a year or so.
Okay.
And then when I was a 6th grader, I said, I think I want to go live with my dad.
I flip-flopped in 6th grade as well.
Yeah. So initially, yeah, Mom, I'm going to come live with you.
Interesting.
A couple years later, I was like, Dad, I'm going to come live with you.
6th grade, I moved in with my dad.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's when I started going to Bethel and you Marty Korch's grandson.
So yeah, that's interesting. And I think that as from a male perspective, I think we've got 2 out of 3 here that we both decided it's 6th grade. There were some changes happening. For me, I attribute it to, puberty. I'm figuring more out about women, girls. Have other desires. Maybe like I was a musician from like 3rd grade. My parents gave me instruments and it was great. But like my dad was a football wizard, okay? And I was getting bullied at school because I wasn't tough, you know what I mean? I mean I was, but I refused to do the tough guy stuff. And I thought I'm going to go move in with my dad and he'll teach me how to play football and he'll teach me how to work on a boat or whatever. And it, that really never right, and that really never happened. But yeah, was there like a yearning there? Like, you know what? Like, F this. Like, I need to experience something new. Also, for me to move in with my dad, it was a move, and it was almost a move in schools, but it ended up not being. But like, was there also a sense of I need a change? Like I can't walk into a new level. For me, 6th grade was the first grade of middle school. It was a new school. It was
same.
so. Yeah, so I thought, man, I'm going to change it all, and I'm going to reinvent myself and be a man's man. And
that was kind of just it. It was that would have been the first year of middle school, so it was a decision of like I said, there is something to me with like heritage, and something about that is cool. And I just thought I kind of want to just go to Bethel because weirdly I was like I kind of want to go to the same school that my parents went to. That just seemed like what you did.
Yeah,
like so in our high school you have like all of the years that I don't know if this is a normal thing or not, but like all of the graduating classes since the school started, there's a picture.
Yeah,
there's like a collage, right? So it's like
I went to Campbell County and they did the same.
Every
thing.
court's for since procreation time.
And then all of whatever your mom's maiden name is.
Exactly, all the Gaineses were there too.
All the Gaineses.
Yeah. So there was something about that where I was like, I kind of want to do that. Plus, my dad had remarried, and they seemed to be living an exciting life. I mean, I say that like there was potential step siblings there, and I was like, oh, that sounds fun. I've never had a
I can have a brother or sister without all the BS of leading up to
without a lot of drama. That's kind of all it was. And now you think looking back on it, like, oh man, that had been so hard.
How long has it been?
Since they got divorced.
Yeah,
I was 12, so I'm 32 now, so
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah, give or take.
Give or take 20. Give or take 20 years. Yeah. So
it is interesting.
In 88. So that was in
Ronald Reagan's last year,
2000.
Yeah. So 2000.
Right. That was probably a weird time for you because then Y2K, and then 9/11.
Yep. 2001.
Dang. So Yep.
It was odd.
And it's interesting though. That you said you didn't really recollect anybody else going through that because national averages for divorce 50%. It's been roughly jumping around that number.
But it's been
better.
It's I mean the line. If you were to put that on a graph, if you were to graph that out, the line of best fit for the past 70 or 60 years probably is just 50% across.
Well,
the board.
it actually jumps up. So before 2000. The rates were a little bit better, and then it jumps up and kind of levels out right around 2000 or after that to be about 50% on average. And a couple of years ago, it spiked up to like 60 or something like that. Coming through 2020, early on in 2020, and through this whole COVID thing, the number was crazy. I mean, the divorce rate was insane. So and it was all people that were getting married in the year 2020 were literally splitting up months later.
Yeah, I don't like this.
It was crazy. Yeah. So
forced quarantine after marriage. That's a crazy thing. Oh my gosh. So, my wife and I have been married almost 12 years, and I think if we had gone into the pandemic, and we've been married almost 12 years, and if we have gone into the pandemic like fresh, like couple weeks into marriage, no way, wouldn't have lasted. At all.
Well, it is interesting to me though, Chris, as you're talking through this. Already, I hear you talking about the events, and I don't really hear like a lot of lament and a lot of torture or like it didn't seem like it was a super stressful time for you.
No, and to be fair, it probably was happening. I just didn't. I was like too busy playing Donkey Kong or something. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for, like, at least for me, and you and I have found out we're pretty similar, and let me know if you feel the same way, but it's almost like you just keep your head down and move forward. I just had this constant theme of my parents, part of my language had a lot of bullshit going on between them, and I didn't really realize how much until I got older, or really didn't maybe care. But when I just always just kept my head down and just, did my thing. You know what I mean? And for me, it was like, hey, this feels cool. I can go live with dad for a little bit and get this benefit and go live with mom.
Yeah. And I think there was something too, also, that like both my parents were very young. The other thing too, so they were just kids. So like also,
yeah, for sure.
I don't think they fully, and hell, nobody does know how to be a perfect parent, but like, and they weren't bad parents by any means, but I think there was also like, not like an emotional disconnect, but just like the physical and emotional I feel like I'm a different parent. Like I'm way more like wanting to hug my kids all the time and like more of connection that way. And we didn't really have a lot of that. And again, it's not like I didn't feel loved or anything, but when I look back on it, I'm just thinking like they were kids. They didn't know they didn't know what they're. Nobody knew what they were doing.
Right.
And so like, but
you almost pick up your parenting style from your grandparents.
Yeah, probably. There's probably something to that. Yeah. So I just didn't think much of it. Yeah. So started living with my dad when a couple years, after they got divorced. So whatever that was, sixth grade and
12, 13.
Yep.
Yeah, and then so through middle school and high school, you're kind of like you're the mayor's grandson. You're in this small town. Things are going. I mean, you're kind of you got step siblings and things like that. So kind of breeze us through that and let us know.
Sure. Small school. I think I graduated with like 92 people or something. So pretty small. Like I said, everybody knew everybody. It was a thing where if you didn't play sports, there really wasn't a place to fit in, you know? And my dad was an athlete. There's a legend still of like, your grandpa on Diamond 1 on the Bethel ball fields hit a softball on top of that middle school. Like, that's like a legend. Everybody would tell me. Everybody. Your dad hit a softball on top of your grandpa hit a softball on top of it. It's like,
throw that pigskin a quarter mile.
Well,
you can't even step in front of a pitch courts. You suck.
You suck, man. You suck. And you're like, okay, well, here's Wonderwall. I said maybe.
Yeah, have you guys ever seen Hamlet? No, I wasn't. No, but so like
you guys. Yeah, but what about design work? You guys ever
watch this yo-yo trick?
Okay, so
all that to say, like I just jumped into sports, right? I was like, okay, I'll play the sports, and I was just like right down middle of the road, and it was always just like I love sports, but I was never like great at it. So all that to say, like I think for years, starting at that period, I started really questioning like. Who am I? What am I good at? I don't feel like at that time I was just like, I'm not great at anything. I was like, some of my friends play all the sports, but damn, Colin's great at basketball. That's like his thing. Or Peter is amazing at soccer. But like, I was just kind of like, God, what? I don't do.
Colin would be great at basketball, and Peter would be great at soccer.
Isn't it funny how that works?
Yeah,
real names.
So you get through high school, you're kind of, I could say, living someone else's dream. Like I'm going to do the sports thing. Just to get through so I can be relevant. I've got some other dreams and whatever.
Yeah.
You get through high school. Tell us about after you graduate, what happens?
Yeah. So right before graduation, things get a little rocky, right?
Oh, okay.
So, this kind of informs those years. So, kind of, puttering my way through. I was popular because I was easygoing and just like,
right. Big guy, funny.
I wasn't even big. I was tiny then too.
And then
really? So that's the difference between us. We've been trying to.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I was kind of fit.
I was tiny.
I was always.
I was trying to do the athlete thing. So
yeah,
it was like,
that's
but
true.
then you bought your first gun.
and then I saw a motorcycle. What's that?
Oh, there it is.
We'll get to that. So
Where's
What's
that guy
that?
going?
so you're in high school and you have there, and I think we've talked about this before. There's a pivot. There's something
Yeah.
that happens, and kind of your world blows up in your face. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So living with my dad. So I'll say this, this is still something I process through in today, but there was a period of time where I was living with my dad. There was like definitely some emotional disconnection between my dad and stepmom and myself. Things got ugly there for a while. And even leading up to that, like I was like convinced to like, stop going to see my mom. And like, again, a lot of that was on me too. So for like,
It's weird.
So it's so hard to navigate.
Like for my kids, they want to be loyal to their parents. They'll do whatever and they'll have their attitudes and whatever. But at the end of the day, they want to please their parents. But for me growing up, I wanted to please my parents, which sometimes meant pleasing my mom or my dad meant
Pissing off the other.
Yeah. And that's a very boiled down way to say it. And if my parents are probably listening to this podcast, and like that's obviously not how I exactly mean it, but that's like it's an emotional struggle. So
Well, were you a tool of retribution, kind of being like pawn?
I don't.
Were you being a pawn?
I think in most cases, and one thing that we want to pride ourselves on here at the In Phase podcast is authenticity. So I'm not going to say anything that's a lie, and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. But I do honestly think after, when I was in middle school and high school, my parents were older, they were more mature, and they were trying to be, they weren't kids anymore. I will say that I think most instances, they both were trying their best to not do that.
Yeah.
My parents never really, I don't think any of my parents said, I'm going to use my son or my daughter or whatever, or any of my siblings as a pawn.
Okay.
But
maybe there was some hurt there, though.
of course, and I'm married, and sometimes my wife and I use things against each other, like
Frying pan.
Yeah.
like my wife will come home from work, and my kids will be like, we've had a rough day or a couple days, and she's struggled with the kids, and they come home and. She comes home and the kids are like, oh, the day with Dad's been great. He got us donuts and McDonald's and all this stuff and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. I'm the cool parent. So I think there's a little bit there anyways, but it's kind of exemplified when parents are separated. And it's tough. It's tough because, I hope to never be in that situation. Actually, I know I will, on my own power, I'll never be in that situation. That doesn't mean that I hold any judgment for anybody who's struggling through that or whatever have. But it's tough. I can't imagine how tough it is. So you and your stepdad or your stepmom and your dad.
Yep.
You're kind of struggling with some stuff.
Yeah. So this is probably the moment in life where, if I look back on it, this is kind of I think God has been weaving a story in me since before I was born. But
yeah. And we haven't talked about that. But obviously you're a believer.
That's right. Yep.
You
believer in
Christian,
Jesus.
you
Work
believe
for
in Jesus. Great.
Yep. I go as far as to work for the church.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that later.
That's like
that's crazy.
That's Jesus follower 2.0.
Stay with us, listeners.
Stay with us. I think
we'll be right back.
Yeah, he still applies. All right.
He was shoveling horse shit, and now he's working for the church. We'll be right back.
And he just said a curse word. It's okay. So he's okay. So
and he's drinking bourbon.
Yep. So
you were a believer then?
No. So but I think that this is where it starts to become really formulative.
Okay.
So
okay, great.
I don't want to push past this, but there's a lot that happens here. But essentially, I was living with my dad, not talking to my mom. Living with them became pretty difficult. Again, probably a lot of reasons going on. Like, I was emotional. They were a little bit more forward. You know what I mean? So it was just different. And it just became it became tough. There was just like altercations and things that I don't know. So whatever the reasons were, I was like, I'm out of here. So one day I was like, I'm going to run away.
How old was that? How old were you when you said, I'm dipping? Screw this.
I think even before I say that story, one of the interesting thing that happens right around this time is my friend Kevin. You know Kevin? No, you don't.
Yeah.
Kevin. He was like,
Kevin.
he was like, I know you play, football, baseball, basketball, but what if you should come out for the rowing team? And I was like, the rowing team?
What?
Where are we
Probably.
going?
Here's the thing. I think most rowing teams in our region,
crew, I should say,
most crews have problems with not having enough people for crew.
not having enough Kevins.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
because it's not the first thing you think of.
so it's like, especially in our area, so they're like, we're just going to grab anybody.
Yeah.
And anybody would be Chris Courts.
That's
Yeah.
right. So his sell on me was like, I was like, nah.
Let me guess. There's some hot chicks.
There are chicks in spandex, dude.
That's why I did musical theater. Dude, freaking Hello Dolly changed my life.
Hello Dolly. There's
True
no
story.
spandex at Hello Dolly.
I've never heard that sentence.
Well, we won't get there.
But this also kind of comes back into like I was still kind of a square peg round hole thing, like where I wasn't like
You weren't sure that you were fitting where you were
Yeah,
at.
and I was playing music. I've been playing music since I was like 8 or 9. That I always liked that more, but again, that was just more culturally irreverent. Just like nobody's playing music out there.
Irrelevant. Not irreverent.
What's irreverent mean?
Well, not the same as irrelevant.
No. Yeah.
I was
irreverent.
The Revenant. What was it?
The Revenant.
What was Leo in? Yeah. That's
So
what, that's what
I mean,
I was.
you were in a town where it wasn't really celebrated. That guy's a weird kid.
Right. Oh man, the first time a kid wore skinny girl jeans to school.
Dude, it could be irreverent. I guess we'll see what you're saying.
So yeah, I get you.
Anyway, he was like, "Come out to rowing. There's chicks in spandex," and I said, "Sure."
And you're interested in that, so you said, "Go ahead."
Things that I like.
These are a few of my
so
favorite
this was
things.
I was 17 here, 16, 17, something like that. So went out
you were
young, dumb,
young and dumb and full of
enthusiasm. Oh, yeah.
Enthusiasm.
I was rowing for a year
Spunk.
there.
Full of spunk.
We rowed as like a collective of like high schools that came together.
Yeah.
And like the second year I was rowing, in walks a girl from a different school.
She's tall, blonde, blue eyes, beautiful.
Everything we didn't have out in Bethel.
Right.
Right.
Intelligent.
Intelligence.
She wore deodorant.
All of her teeth.
All of her
Like,
teeth.
she wore pants.
She had so our graduating
And she was probably a little mouthy too, wasn't she?
our graduating GPAs. She technically doubled mine. I graduated with a 2.1. She had a 4.2.
Wow.
Wow.
So she's smart.
It's amazing. She doubled
my-
it.
That's so funny.
So anyway,
We had the same GPA before I went to college.
you and her.
No,
Oh,
you and
yeah.
I.
Sorry. So I was immediately, met her, was attracted to her. One of the first things she ever asked me was like, "Are you a Christian?" And I
You're
was
like, oh, no, I watch MTV.
hook, line, and sinker. Yeah, I was like,
Which that was when MTV was music television.
I was like, what are
Playing
you,
music.
am I a Christian? Didn't you see my George Bush bumper sticker?
Right.
Duh.
Okay.
I mean,
duh.
I grew up in Bethel. My grandpa's the mayor, of
There's a
course.
church on every corner.
Right.
I wasn't though, but she was
Yeah,
a
not at
believer.
all.
Anyway, so we start dating. The faith thing is kind of there, but I'm not really doing anything with it. That's when things were coming to a head with my parents, dad and stepmom. And one day, I didn't have cell phone privileges at the time or something. I borrowed.
Oh, that's the
I
worst.
borrowed a friend's phone on the bus to call Lisa, to call her on my
Which
way
is-
home from school.
This girl you were dating.
This is this tall blonde from a different school. I call her to see what's going on, and she tells me, she's like, "Hey, I just talked to your parents. They're super pissed. You apparently did something or forged a report card or something," which is
Yeah. Sounds like you.
all true. And which is odd, which is such an odd thing because I was like the happy-go-lucky kind of people pleaser. Didn't get into trouble at all,
That is so strange how similar our stories are. Go ahead.
And so somehow it's like I did do those things, but it was because of such a bad relationship I was in. I felt like I was trying to please them in weird ways. So I call her and she says, "You shouldn't go home. They just found out you forged something or another." And I was like, "Oh crap!" So I got off the bus at the next stop at like a friend's house and was like,
Which, hold on, by the way, we're in 2021. You can't, I did that so many times. You cannot do that anymore.
Listen, this is a weird thing where I'm like, I think this was a God orchestrated moment. I really believe this. I had the same bus driver every single day for however many years I rode the bus. Never got sick. She never had a sub. This was the only time we ever had a sub.
Wow.
So
You had a sub
that day,
and you were like,
peace.
peace.
It's my stop.
Yeah.
So I got off at a friend's house And
so you were living on the edge. You're kind of running away from.
This is the weirdest. This is the most rebellious
you're running away
I
from
could have
home.
ever imagined in my whole life. Hitchhiked down to my mom's house. So just bizarre. Like again,
wait. Let's rewind a little bit. So your dad lives where? Bethel, Ohio.
That's right.
Okay. And your mom lives where?
She was in Walnut Hills at the time.
Walnut Hills, which is in Cincinnati. Let me just hold on one second.
You looking for the miles?
Yeah, I'll get you.
So
this is I was 16, 17 at the time.
Yeah. So what year is this approximately?
This is around 2004, 2005, something like that.
Yep, gotcha.
So essentially, I get to my mom's house and kind of just show up on her doorstep, and I'm like,
so that's 28 miles on the highway.
Both ways. Oh wait, did you say uphill?
Yeah.
Barefoot.
One way, 28 miles. And that's Walnut, but you didn't take the highway. So you hitchhiked from your dad's house in Bethel, which.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're probably looking at about 30, 35 miles.
Sure. Yeah.
Of walking.
Yeah. And I knew I wasn't going to have to do that. I would have called somebody, So kind of showed up at my mom's doorstep and was like, I'm here to live with you now. So obviously severed the relationship with my dad. My mom and I didn't have a relationship, so just this weird flop of things that happened.
Yeah. So when you were living with your dad, were you going to her house like every other weekend and doing Wednesday dinner?
I was until the point where you remember I had severed the relationship with her. So I hadn't talked to her in about 2 years.
At all.
Before I showed up.
And was that
Christmas, Easter, nothing. Birthday?
Nope.
Was that conscious? Was that a conscious decision, or was that just I'm so busy, I'm a kid? And
no,
blah, blah, blah?
it was conscious.
Okay,
but like I
you
said,
go through so many emotions.
But like I said, it was very much like, I was in a relationship with my dad's stepmom. That's what felt like I was supposed to do.
Yeah, okay.
It felt like honoring your dad and your stepmom was cutting your mom off,
basically. Yeah.
And I've been there.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that's not your freaking kid.
As parents, can you imagine?
Well, and also, like, you're not the one that put you in that situation.
And then I did it, but then I did it to my dad.
Yeah.
For those last, I think him and I didn't talk for like 3 or 4 years.
And what brought you to that moment?
Of not talking to him?
Yeah.
Moving in with your mom.
Moving in with my mom.
No, but so what drove you to move in with your mom?
Just like everything coming to a boil point with my dad.
So
basically,
in like Tony's house, so when your kids were in high school and they were so pissed at you that they didn't want to live there, they couldn't say, "I'm going to go live at mom's house," right? So
No.
So walk us through that, Tony. Like, I mean, without obviously you don't have to go into major detail, but like mine and Chris's experience has been, and I think that we could learn from, because we've got kids coming up. We could learn from your experience.
I'm saying, as a parent, can you imagine just being like, kid,
Yeah, so like,
I mean,
it's not natural.
We both had the option, and because our parents, obviously they wanted us to be good adults, but they also loved the attention and opportunity to bring us back in.
Yeah.
So we had the option to be like, screw you, I'm going to mom or dad's house, respectively or prospectively. So kind of walk us through, like, is there a moment where your kids were like, I'm going to grandma's, or I'm going to my sister, my aunt's house, or whatever?
Yeah. So number one, I would say that barring the reality that there's this really crazy broad spectrum of people where some folks are like, oh, heck no, there's no way that's going to happen, to go, right? Just go.
Just get out of my face.
Right. And what I would say is that oftentimes really, really healthy people still have a moment where they're like, all right, I'm done. Nothing it feels like is working. You just go do what you need to do.
As a parent.
Yeah, so good luck out there, right, kind of thing. And thinking, how much trouble are they really going to get in, blah, blah, blah. Now, the community we lived in was pretty doggone safe.
Pretty tight-knit. Everybody, your kids can't fart down there. It was kind of like Bethel. You fart and everybody smells it.
Yeah. So, so...
Everybody farts and you smell it, that's for sure.
right. Which your community's a lot like my household, which is really weird. But
probably about the same square footage too.
Right. Yeah.
So it is weird that we had a leverage in that we were the only source of real safety and nourishment and clothing and stuff like that. So we had a lot of leverage over the kids to really force them to behave a certain way or try to force them to behave a certain way. But we still had moments, you know. I mean, my daughter left and went over her best friend's house and spent a couple of days with her because my wife was like, "All right, I'm done. You know, get out."
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, they just reached a pinnacle moment there that was a little bizarre. You know, and her best friend's house was a mile and a half away, and we knew her mom and blah, blah, blah. But it was really, you know, something that I guess wasn't a real element. And we had parental leverage, I think, over most of what they were doing.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
Am I explaining it?
That's great. I love that. Yeah, I mean, you know, because there will be people who are listening to you, Tony, and being like, "Yeah, of course." Like, you know, I'm in my mid 50s or early 60s, and I've done this thing. And yeah, you got to have that leverage with your kids. And you also have to know when to say, "Hey, yeah, you go down the street," and you put in the work to build those relationships so that they're fine.
Yeah.
And that's great for people that, you know, grew up like we did, because we've often talked like, I just don't know if our parents knew how to raise kids.
Well, yeah. What really trips you up is when you get older and you start thinking like, oh, I don't want to do that. But they weren't bad. You know what I mean?
Right,
and like,
right. Yeah,
you start
of course,
having this triangle of like, what?
Yeah, it's a weird place. So,
well, and it's kind of, so from what you believe, right, and what I believe as well, you know, if you believe in Jesus, is that it goes against design, right? So this whole concept of marriage and fighting it out together, and so it goes against the design because for some reason, the vast majority of us all, and I wrestle with this a lot, is in the back of our head. There's like, well, I have options.
Right.
You know, I don't have to stay married.
And just as you said, like statistically, it's like it's normal.
Right.
You know, that is statistically normal.
I mean,
so
you know, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
If marriage was a
you had met me before Allison,
right? If marriage was a golly, I would have been on it. If marriage was a company and I was an investor, I would not invest.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean with these numbers. So okay. So let's just recap a little bit. You have things. You're kind of rebelling, and let's be honest. Some of that stuff with your dad and your stepmom is on you. And it's just 100%. Easy. It's just easy to when you're in that situation. It's easy to just be like, you know, screw you. I'm going to go live with mom. So you show up on mom's doorstep. Does she welcome you with open arms or
for sure.
Because she's like, I've missed you. I missed my son.
Yeah, and she'd been saying for years, get out of the house, get out of the house, get out of the house.
Of course,
right? And so it all just played together. So I finished the last couple of years of high school, and again, remember, here's the setting: Chris Courts, a Courts boy, normal. People pleaser, just as his personality.
Did you change?
Like,
hold
not
on,
rebellious.
I'm sorry. Let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you change schools when you went to move with your mom? Did you go to Walnut Hills High School?
Nope. I finished high school in Bethel.
Oh wow.
So you were still going to high school.
You have to remember that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to high school.
That legacy thing.
I had perfect attendance my senior year, that year that I ran away, which meant I was doing that trek. You know.
And you could you could show your dad, like, you know, like
pre-podcast days.
Pre-podcast days.
What I listened to. I don't know, Bob and Tom.
So you were
Bob
walking.
and Tom.
You were walking or driving.
I was
you were
driving. Yep.
Yeah,
but that was a
30
thing.
miles.
Was that right? Was that something you could tell your dad? Like, you know what? Like, this isn't about me trying to be in a different school and whatever. Like, this is about you. Like, I've got perfect attendance.
I severed the relationship. I didn't talk to him.
Oh,
so
wow.
we were done. Like, we didn't talk.
So what? Why? I mean,
it seems.
Why did you do it? Why did
Like
you go to
something
that
shoulda-
school still?
That was what I wanted. That was what I wanted when I was in 6th grade. And none of my opinions or any of that really changed in those years. That's what I wanted to do. I still had the same interest.
You want to finish
friends.
it out.
I was like, I'll just finish this out.
You're kind of a like hit the nail on the head every day kind of guy.
You're going to listen to the rest of the story and you're not going to assume that's the personality that I have. But if I could wake up and put on the same outfit, hit that same nail, and eat the same thing for breakfast, I would do it.
Which would be 12 fried bologna sandwiches.
God, no.
Yeah. So from what I know already, it sounds like a lie, right? So that's
it sounds goofy, right? Exactly. But that was me, and I, didn't have a tattoo. I did, you know what I mean? It was just like I was straight laced, vanilla. And so I'll say this: I finished high school. I was still dating Lisa, but all the while,
let's not forget about this beautiful creature with spandex that you met.
That's right.
In rowing,
gorgeous woman. And so at this time, though, let's call it, my last senior year, the third time my senior year,
the third time through senior year,
my last year of high school. I think I was doing things that were hoping to get back to my dad to like make him mad. You know what I mean? Maybe I would.
What?
Maybe I would do something. Maybe I would do something wild, like drink at a party or something.
Yeah, because your grandpa is the mayor.
Was
and people know who.
And people are also like, did you hear Chris ran away from his house? He's a good guy. Chris,
what's going on with his dad?
He was always the good kid. Well, I heard he drank a beer at a party. What's going on? I think there was a little bit of that happening.
So how do you reconcile that with you're still dating this girl who is freaking married to Jesus? Which is, you're like, this is weird. And then you're going to parties and drinking and stuff.
Yeah, and that wasn't like a huge occurrence. You know what I mean?
But still, once is enough, I think, in that situation.
What was happening was, she was involved in this ministry that did outreach to high school kids. So as I was hanging around with her, I was seeing a lot of that. I was coming around to a lot of that. I was meeting some of those leaders and understanding what Christianity is, and
for you,
I didn't really know what it was. I thought again, you went to church on Sunday, and that was kind of it. And
right, okay.
So did this gorgeous blonde super person end up going to college?
She did. So she ended up going to NKU here, and she was doing that. But again, she was involved in Young Life. So I started coming around to this thing more and more. I went to summer camp in 2006 for this ministry. And again, it was a very clear image of who Jesus was, what it meant to actually follow him, and that was the moment where I was like, okay, I think I'm done faking this thing. I'm gonna go all in on it, right?
Okay, so you're committing to your faith,
sure.
And you're saying at that moment, which I know it can kind of, you're almost 18, and you commit to this faith, right? In this thing, is there a sense of you that is committing to this because of this beautiful unicorn creature?
It was definitely flirt to convert, conversation. Yeah. I think initially it was like, I'll come around because I'm attracted to you,
But something about this, but at the end of the day, something about this, you're like, yes.
Yeah. It was after a couple of years where I was like, oh yeah, okay, I got it.
This has been, this became your moral compass, so.
For sure. And what did it, and what I want to note is like the thing that really did it for me was and this is not everybody's story, and I respect that, but for me, I think the turning point was I was taught and I saw and I observed that being a Christian or a Christ follower wasn't like meant you had to just keep being vanilla. You know what I mean? Like I could do that, and I had that nailed down to a T, and I could look back on the last couple of years and be like, wow, my life is pretty screwed up, and I lived the straight and narrow,
Thanks everybody for hanging out with us here at the In Face Podcast. We're going to pick up right where we left off with Chris Quartz in our next episode, and we hope that you can stay tuned or be with us as we find out and discover how these challenges and the changes that they represent play out in the rest of Chris's life. So until next time.